The one and only televised debate in the French presidential election took place last night. For nearly 3 hours, Emmanuel Macron and Marine Le Pen sparred on a range of issues, including the environment, the retirement age, and the high cost of living. While there were no knockout punches thrown, Macron did go after Le Pen for securing loans from Russia. He also said her plan to ban the hijab here in France would result in civil war.
Je suis pour l'interdiction du voile dans l'espace public. Je l'ai dit.
I am in favour of banning the headscarf in the public space. I said it in the clearest way. I think that the headscarf is a uniform imposed by the Islamists. I think that a large part of the young women who wear it have no choice, in fact, even if they don't dare to say it, because those who don't wear it instead show the fact that they're isolated, that they're insulted, that they're put aside and accused of being impure.
There is a neutrality of the public services. It is absolute. On the other hand, in the public space, you're going to create civil war if you do that. I'm telling you this in all sincerity, because it means you're attacking yourself.
We can now bring in Joël Reland, a researcher at UK in a Changing Europe. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us here on France 24. What did you make of last night's debate?
So overall, I think last night's debate was perhaps something of a damp squib. I don't think it's going to have changed many opinions in France at all. I think in terms of views of Emmanuel Macron, it told us what we already know. He is in command of detail. He has a very EU-focused program. And for those who don't like him, you know, he can come across as patronizing, arrogant at times in the way he was kind of stepping into Le Pen's territory when she was speaking, interrupting. On the other side, Marine Le Pen, it's the same kind of emphasis on French sovereignty, trying to present herself as a compassionate leader who feels the suffering of French people. And if you don't like Marine Le Pen, you're going to see that she's seemed most passionate when talking about Islam and immigration, the same reasons why people haven't liked them in the past. So it was much of the same. And ultimately, roughly 30% of the electorate watched that debate yesterday. It was 3 hours. It was detailed. There was a full schedule of French League football fixtures on at the same time. I'm not sure that many people were paying attention for the full time or having their minds changed that much.
Let's talk about far left voters, because one of the aims of this debate for both candidates is to get those voters to pick them. Do you think they succeeded in that, in terms of Marine Le Pen toning down and Emmanuel Macron appealing to younger voters, more green voters, essentially?
Yeah, I think Macron probably had the better of it in this debate for a couple of reasons. Firstly, I think he talked about Islam quite well. 65% or 70% of Muslim voters voted for Jean-Luc Mélenchon, the left-wing candidate, in the first round. And so that's an important topic. He was able to really remind people, even though Le Pen tries to talk less about immigration, identity, Islam in 2022, that she is still that same far-right candidate. He sort of brought that discussion about the veil. He brought that out well. It was discussed at length. It's made headlines. And he quite effectively critiqued this idea that she could just ban the veil without banning other religious symbols, saying this would make France the first country in the world to ban religious symbols in public, that it would be unconstitutional, etc. That was very effective. I also think he did a good job of bringing climate change into the debate, showing the kind of the folly, if you will, as he would put it, of Le Pen's plan to go full nuclear, saying a lot of this industry wouldn't be ready for another 15 years, effectively, you know, picking holes in her argument. And for young voters who, again, primarily voted for Mélenchon, we know the climate is a very important issue, and it was telling that Macron finished his final address, his final 2 minutes. He devoted the last 40 seconds to the French youth. That's clearly a big focus for him.
You touched on this point earlier, but one of the main aims for Emmanuel Macron was to seem less arrogant. Do you think he achieved that, considering he spent the first half of the debate doing all these hand gestures and you know what I'm referring to?
I do know what you're referring to, and I don't think he succeeded in making himself seem less arrogant. The question is it going to matter? There's a certain portion of the French electorate for whom it doesn't matter, because they see it as competence. They see it as being across the detail, as coming into Le Pen, constantly interrupting, lecturing her almost like he's her professor. For some people, that will give the impression that he knows what he's talking about. Le Pen isn't up to his level. For others, yes, it will annoy them. And so the question there is is it going to be enough to perhaps put them off going up to vote this Sunday? That's perhaps Macron's biggest risk now, is complacency. I think he's got a 10-point lead in the polls, more or less. It looks like he's going to win. The debate, he seemed a stronger candidate. Le Pen failed to land any real blows on him. So there might be a feeling amongst the French public that Macron has it in the bag. And so for those who don't particularly like Macron, who find him a bit arrogant, his performance last night might have said to them, okay, I don't need to go vote for this guy that I don't really like because he's going to win anyway. I'm not his biggest fan. And so they stay at home. And that's when there's a slight risk for Macron if enough people don't vote this Sunday.
Do you think Macron could have succeeded in convincing some of Marine Le Pen's voters not to vote for her, considering he did poke holes in some of her plans, including some of the plans to suddenly raise wages, where he told her, it's not up to you, it's up to companies?
I think he will struggle. I think what's telling about the way Le Pen presented her agenda was it was very... there was a lot of pathos. It was a very emotional agenda. She was constantly saying how she really felt the suffering of French people, whether it be about pensions, working hard, whether it be about the cost of climate policies affecting the least well-off. And Macron isn't going to stray into that territory very well. And I don't think that...
But she didn't go after him for things like the yellow vest protest, things she could have really gone after him for.
Yeah, I think that, again, like I was saying, Macron didn't do a very good job of convincing people why Le Pen was necessarily wrong. But at the same time, I don't think that was his job. I think it was Le Pen's job. She's the one who's behind in the race. She's the one who needs to make up points on Macron. And she didn't land many punches. It was actually quite funny, even though Macron is the incumbent, he was almost the one who was attacking Le Pen as if she'd spent the last 5 years in power trying to, pick up where her arguments were flawed. She didn't do enough of that. I think she was really trying to present herself as composed, as in command of the detail, because we all know she had a very bad debate 5 years ago. I think that was weighing heavily on her mind. And I think ultimately it meant she actually gave quite a placid performance, which wasn't going to do enough to change people's minds.
Joël Reland, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us on the program today.
Thank you.